Man, I really didn't think I was going to make another video on the Epstein files again, but it just seems like every day the situation with the Epstein file releases just seems to be getting worse and worse, and it just shows a level of incompetence I honestly wasn't expecting from the US government. Because it seems like the redactions are not just suspicious, but they're so sloppily done that you could simply unredact a majority of the files yourself by just simply copying and pasting the text from Adobe into Microsoft Word. And let me remind you, this is the Department of Justice, which receives billions of dollars to ensure that this type of stuff doesn't happen, right? They have lawyers, many lawyers, that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through these documents and just simply redact the text, right? And they couldn't even handle that correctly. Now, I'm not mad that they messed this up. But essentially, what happened was that some of these lawyers, I guess, maybe not all of them, because some of the text is still redacted, but some of these lawyers simply just visually blacked out some of the documents, the PDF files that were included in the release, right? And they didn't strip the text from the actual file, meaning that the text still exists, right? Essentially what happened was some of the people who were working on these files, their job was to redact the files, and what they did was, instead of redacting parts of the file and removing the text, they essentially put a black highlighter over the text rather than actually removing the text. So simply you could just delete a lot of the elements on Adobe, or just copy and paste the file text from Adobe to Microsoft Word and see exactly what was redacted. Now, the Department of Justice claims that this text redaction was meant to protect victims. However, a lot of the unredacted text that we now have clearly show that it has nothing to do with the victims and more to do with protecting certain people. So because of this loophole, it showed actually, for instance, that there were 600 mentions of Donald Trump in the Epstein files that we did not know about previously that are now revealed, right? And it shows, like, I mean, unless he's a victim, it shows that they are simply just protecting certain political figures, and he's just one. There are many others besides him that clearly they're just protecting in these files. Now, a lot of people online, or not a lot of people, but there are some people online that are claiming that this was done on purpose, right? This was some whistleblower situation to just show the unredacted parts of the files. But I honestly think that these lawyers are just technically incompetent, right? They just don't understand that putting a highlighter over the text, right, just because it's in black doesn't mean that the text is actually removed. And overall, it just makes them look very much incompetent, like they don't know what they're doing. And seeing the Department of Justice also scramble for emergency redactions over the Christmas break is just not a good look, right? It just really implies such a poor planning process that was involved in this and a lack of oversight, right? People are really asking, why wasn't this handled, right, leading up to the release? Like, they had a whole month to start preparing this and start planning the release of these files. Instead, they clearly are mishandling this. It honestly leads me to the question, like, why are these people in this position, right? Like, begging for emergency volunteers to help redact files right before Christmas is just not a good look, right? Like, some of these politicians or some of these administration staff shouldn't be there anymore, right? Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, it's like somebody should be held accountable for how badly this was released. And the reason I say that is because the law is very clear on when this is all supposed to be released. It was all supposed to be released on December 19th, and we're still waiting on upcoming batches to come out to the public, right? So they're not even in compliance with the law right now as it's written. So, I mean, like, no, somebody should be held accountable for it. And just when you think the situation couldn't get any more bizarre, the Department of Justice recently announced on Christmas Eve that they received a huge new batch of Epstein-related documents. Specifically, the Department of Justice said that the U.S. Attorney Office for the SDNY and the FBI uncovered over 1 million more documents potentially related to the Epstein case. So all of a sudden, they just randomly find 1 million more documents. Like, how do you forget 1 million documents of such a highly, extremely important case, right? This is a very high profile case, and it's important to the public, right? Clearly the public cares about this case, and they had a month to discover all these files, and now they're like saying, oh, we just found 1 million random documents. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? It really doesn't make sense. So at this point, I mean, all this means is that there's going to be way more delays. Who knows? Maybe all the files don't get released in 2026 at this rate. I mean, I lost hope when it comes to this Epstein case and getting all the files by the due date, right? Which was December 19th. So, I mean, like, it just sucks because, like, clearly you could just break the law if you're a politician or if you're the government. The laws don't really matter. I wish it was like that for regular people. You could just break the law and nothing happens. So clearly there's no consequences for these files getting released past the deadline. And, we'll see what happens. We'll see when we eventually get everything in front of us and who else was involved. Anyways, that's the video. That's all I got. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And leave a comment. Like, what do you think about all these files being unredacted by just regular people online? And what do you think about these files, these million new documents just appearing out of nowhere? I'd really like to hear your opinion on these. And yeah, see you guys in the next video.